Hello, and welcome to this originally produced podcast from the Office of Global Perspectives and International Initiatives. I'm Shivram Sundar, the Special Projects Intern with GPII.
Hi, my name is Susana El Souki Assal. I am the Middle East and North Africa Studies Intern at Global Perspectives Office.
Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Amr Elbanhawy. He's an Associate Professor of Mechanical Engineering at Ain Shams University and the Director of the Energy Technology and Climate Change Laboratory. Currently, Dr. Elbanhawy is a Fulbright Fellow at MIT. His extensive research encompasses critical areas such as renewable energy integration, energy storage, the decarbonization of agriculture, and biomass clean fuels. Additionally, he serves as a chartered member of the Council of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers and most recently as a senior technology advisor for Egypt's Orascom construction. So thank you, Dr. Elbanhawy, for being with us today. We're very glad to have you with us at the GPII podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Of course. So to start off, Dr. Elbanhawy, your resume is very long. Your career is marked by significant achievements, including your roles as an associate professor. You're the director of a prominent laboratory, and of course, you are a Fulbright Fellow with MIT. So could you share with us how your journey began and what really sparked your interest in mechanical engineering and environmental sustainability?
Well, I think that started ever since I was a child. I I was always interested in cars and how they work and airplanes. And I had parents who kind of nurtured this in me and kind of encouraged me to do that. And at part in time, I think they wanted me to pursue medicine because I was interested in medicine. But then later on, I actually do some work at the moment with some of our colleagues in the medical school, Ain Shams University, and I fulfill this part of my interest. However, it's part of the I think bringing up and being exposed to things in schools, kind of in primary school and in secondary school. And later when I went to the university, I had the opportunity to be sort of taught by professors who encouraged me to sort of, go further in my career, and I worked for the private sector as a design engineer for power plants after I graduated back in 2003. And also that was a great opportunity. It kind of opened my mind on how engineers would think. It was a great opportunity, and when I was then offered a position to work at the university, it made me think of how we could link the things we do at the university with what industry wants and how we could create this impact on the industry. At that time, I had in my mind that I wanted to pursue further studies. I had also a great opportunity of doing a master's at a different university in Egypt. It's a kind of rival to Ain Shams University. It's called Cairo University. It's one of the oldest as well. So these two are rivals in Egypt. So I had the opportunity to do that. It was a great opportunity. I very much cherish this, and then got an offer to do a PhD in the UK. I did that as well, and then continued. The journey continued.
The next question, it's the Fulbright program is renowned for fostering international academic exchange. What motivated you to apply for the Fulbright Fellowship, and how has this experience at MIT influenced your research and professional outlook?
I had the opportunity when I was after I finished my PhD to work in the UK for some time, and during this job as a kind of consultant, I was able to travel to many places around the world. I had some sort of international experience that you would initially think that maybe having a Fulbright is not going to add anything. However, what I have seen is that Fulbright has enabled me to know much more about the US, which I hadn't had this opportunity ever before. MIT is one of the places in the world, not only in the US, that is known by the ingenuity of the people there, by plenty of clever people. And I think that lots will change. It's just speaking to the dean, John here, and I just told him that I think lots of things will change when I go back to Cairo.
It's great to hear. Like I realize that the Fulbright scholarship is a very prestigious one, especially at MIT, one of the most prestigious universities in the U.S. and possibly the world. Do you think that with Fulbright being like your scholarship, that kind of enabled you to really experience more of the world and kind of got to see like more areas that you didn't think were possible? Or
Yes, indeed. Although I've been to as far east as India. And as far west as maybe Quebec and Canada. But this experience in Fulbright has allowed me to live in the US, never lived in the US before. And I can tell you and tell anybody who's listening to this that it's this kind of experience as a postdoc or as a scholar or a fellow is just enriching in many ways, in that you meet with Fulbrighters in whether at MIT or in Boston as a city or even in the US generally. There are plenty of activities that is being run by Fulbright's kind of associate sort of organizations. Like in Boston, for example, we have an organization called World Boston, or Boston. It's kind of it's an organization that works on kind of promoting citizen diplomacy and this kind of activities and initiatives, and so it's not only about the research and education and being an academic, but it's also about knowing the society, knowing the common challenges that we face as two countries, being able to explain or to give people perspectives on what Egypt is about and the opportunities and challenges that we live in, and how to bring build bridges and for the benefit of the whole world.
It's really important to hear experiences, and also as students, we always looking for opportunities.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And then that also promotes, diversity in research and in people. And that kind of brings me to my next question. Your research does span a lot of diverse areas. You have renewable energy systems, decarbonizing agriculture. So focusing on that, could you please elaborate on some of your most recent projects, particularly those aimed at addressing environmental challenges in Egypt and globally? And how has the Fulbright Scholarship kind of facilitated that important work that you do?
I think in the Fulbright Scholarship allows you to sort of work on a topic that has a global importance. So energy and climate in general is something that is, I think everybody in the world knows that is important. I think we see these impacts in Florida. We see it in places like Egypt, for example. So we know that these sort of areas such as energy and climate are of sort of common interest between the US and Egypt. The importance of this sort of work that we do is that we look at three important things. First of all, is to look at how could renewable energy be sort of integrated in Egypt, and how can this help decarbonize the industries? How could we make our industries more ready for the next phase of carbon adjustment mechanisms, trading with carbon emissions, and all these kind of things. And lastly, what I'm interested in the lab is to try to promote new technologies and new learning technologies and new learning approaches for our colleagues, staff and faculty, and also to the students. So the Fulbright, of course, allows you to do that through this interaction with MIT in my case.
And do you think that you talked about new technologies in the lab? Do you think artificial intelligence could be one of those new technologies you promote in the lab?
Yes, I think one of the important takeaways from my time here in the US is to see how artificial intelligence is shaping up lots of things around us. I think it was I was privileged to be witnessing this in MIT because MIT is one of these places in the US that is on the forefront of this application, and also has lots of links with industry. And what I would take away, one of the things that I would take away is how we can in Egypt, how we can prepare our students and prepare, of course, the industry and be thought leaders in this kind of technology and its applications, and most importantly, really prepare the workforce for what's going or coming next.
Absolutely.
It is.
Yeah.
The Fulbright Scholarship is one of, if not the most competitive scholarship in the United States. Many young scholars and researchers look up to professionals like you. If you could give one piece of advice to students of early career professionals who will want to apply for this scholarship, what would it be?
Well, I agree with you. Fulbright is competitive. I just want to tell you and whoever is listening that it took me about 3 years to get this to get accepted. I initially applied 2 years or 2.5 years ago, and I was put on a reserve list, and then reapplied at the following in 1.5 years later, and I was then accepted. Fulbright is, of course, one of the most competitive. I think for Fulbright scholars, because of this sort of enrichment and opportunities that you get, with limited funding, of course, and such as anything, you need to pick the people who would be best suited for these opportunities and who would serve the purpose of this for this grant. Now, what I want to, maybe the piece of advice is try to work on research that is quite, first of all, try to make the links with US universities and try to establish a program of work in your application. I'm here talking about, of course, the, postdoctoral or fellows, research fellows. And I think maybe the same would go to students and grad students in that develop a program of work that really represents what you are good at, and try to put an element of kind of innovation and creativity on it. It doesn't have to be that you know everything about the project or the proposal, but try to add this sort of extra bit of challenge on it, such that you can expand what you do, not just repeat things that you've done in the lab before. And of course, with some determination, some sort of shaping up the proposal in the right way, you hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. Like Susana said, I am also a researcher, so I do look up to professionals like you. And I think one of the biggest things I feel like is like how I feel like traveling. I do know Fulbright does promote a lot of traveling and a lot of global travel. Do you feel like, are there any places in the future that you would like to travel to like promote your work there, or like anything you think would be best?
Yes, one of the opportunities that Fulbright gives you is that you are encouraged to. This is the reason why I'm here, to sort of meet different universities and different, whether this is the US or even if you are a US scholar going to visiting another country. So I think it is part of this aspect of bridging bridging nations and having this sort of scientific communication and this kind of community building. Part of this is, of course, allowing you to go around in different places, meeting people, explaining what you do, explaining about your experience, your country, your sort of even your culture in that case. And I think this is one of the ways by which people can know each other and can work together for the betterment of the world.
Totally agree with you, Dr. Elbanhawy. I think the best way to meet a lot of people is through connections. If we want to know like their cultures, what they like, and everything, I think that will be the best way. And I think like if we want to be the citizen of the world, we must try to connect with people that could serve as a potential mentor for us.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like, programs like Fulbright do play a significant role in that. This brings me to my next question. Like programs like Fulbright, they play a significant role in like bridging these cultural gaps and contribute to a lot of global diplomacy, I feel. So I feel like one of those core goals of the Fulbright program is to foster a mutual understanding between different universities and the countries that they're in. Given the unique experiences that Fulbright scholars have while living and working abroad, I'm curious to hear your perspective. So specifically, like, how do you think your time as a Fulbright scholar helped promote cultural exchange and mutual understanding between Egypt and the United States?
I think one of the ways that made this possible is, first of all, me, speaking about what I do in Egypt, telling whether this is the community at MIT or community here in UCF, about what are the challenges in energy and climate that we face and how we solve that. And also one of the things that is important for Fulbright fellowships is that it doesn't end by the end of the period of the fellowship itself. In fact, I think I regard this as a start of collaboration. So what we do is that you sort of work on a project with your hosts and with the universities that you are hosted in, and then prepare for the next phase when you're back at your home country. And this is how this sort of bridges would be built, because no matter how long is the fellowship, if it is 3 months, if it is 9 months, if it is a year, not so much can be done in a year, especially if you are in university and you're working research projects usually take 2 to 3 years to sort of bring something interesting. So yes, it's part of this, of course, is to build this sort of kind of connections, and it is something that I'm really happy to say that we've already kind of worked together on some proposals for funding agencies with my colleagues at MIT, and hopefully we look forward in sort of trying to see if this can in the future.
Congratulations on the funding, and I know that Fulbright, more than research, Fulbright helps bring experiences. Like,
Of course.
I remember you said previously that you're going to be able to bring a lot more research that you've learned in the U.S. and other countries back to Egypt and back to your university. So I'm curious to hear, like, more than research, what experiences do you feel like you can bring back to?
Yeah, I think one of the experiences is seeing how a university such as MIT, or even like in here, how the university is being run. So how education is being brought to sort of go along with technologies, go along with advances in AI specifically. Because as maybe I mentioned before, it's one of the things that I primarily take away from this experience. How can we prepare our students and prepare professionals for that, knowing that, of course, AI is going to be dominated by private companies, by the way. So we as academics, I think that we would be lagging behind with this great advancement in AI happening in private sector, so by private companies or organizations. So I think we have a great role and a great responsibility of trying to bring our students and the community in the universities to be sort of at least aware of the advancements and how they can be well prepared for the jobs of the future. Yes, AI is definitely one of the things that I think would be a great thing to do. And in addition to knowing how universities work, is also looking at education and running connections with industry and trying to see how universities can bring funding, working with industry, how they could be engaging with industry in a better way. And the US, I think, whether it is specifically MIT or the area and in Boston, I think they're very sort of good in this. So this is definitely a key takeaway for me.
Yep. So moving forward for the next question, we know that every journey has its challenges. What was an unexpected part of your Fulbright experience? How did you adapt and stay motivated?
Frankly speaking, I really didn't have lots of challenges. I think part of this is that I was privileged to travel to many places in the world and actually live in places that are from home country. So I really didn't have challenges of this. In fact, actually, the biggest challenge in what I've seen is trying to keep up with understanding and knowing what's going on around me in MIT, and trying to sort of just grasp and digest the amount of sort of things that I wanted to learn in such a short piece of time. So this is really the challenge that I'm trying to kind of get the hang of it.
And you've traveled a lot. I'm assuming, you just explained how you were able to go to different countries. And that brings me to like another question. Like, you didn't have many challenges, but did you have like any mentors or role models that kind of helped you along the way? Do you know, like, what were some lessons that you learned from them that you're able to take away?
I think having mentors along the way is a great thing. And in fact, one of the things that I kind of worry about in the next, or for the, maybe the younger generations, is with this sort of mode of working remotely, I think, and not having this sort of connections with people, maybe not having time for, a side coffee or a water fountain coffee or whatever, having this sort of, social interactions in person. I think that is kind of worrying me in how, if you lose this sort of mentorship along the way. Now, I had in my experience in my career, I had a number of mentors who really made a lot of impact in the way I work, the way I think about problems, the way I sort of kind of look at how we carry on business, how we do teaching, how we do research. Whether this is my supervisors or academic supervisors in my master's and PhD, whether this is my engineering supervisors when I worked my first job in Egypt, the private sector as a design engineer, or working as a consultant in the UK. So I had plenty of, if I just mention names, Sharif Shahata, I had him in Jesco in Egypt, John Wintle in the UK, Professor Mahmoud Fouad in Cairo University, and my mentor, Ali Tour. So all of these, of course, acted a lot in sort of shaping the way.
Definitely.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Elbanhawy. I think we have to see our professors as our guiding lights.
Absolutely.
Because we are here, students, we are learning everything, every day, something new. So I think our professors will be our guiding lights for a future in our career developments.
And I think one of the biggest things I feel like, you mentioned that you do a lot of outside work that's not research based. You are the director of a laboratory. You're an associate professor. So how do you maintain kind of that research and those advisory roles? Like how are you able to do all of that work, especially as a Fulbright scholar?
Well, at the moment, being here, I'm focused, of course, on what I do and my research here in the US. But in Egypt, I think even if you are a full-time academic here in the US, I think part of our roles as academics is to, of course, do the teaching and research, but we also have some sort of what we call community engagement. And that community engagement can take different modes and shapes. It could be providing consultancy, could be writing a report, it could be kind of, and this is one of the things that universities need to do is how you engage with the community around you. Whether you teach training courses, whether you speak in events, whether you go speak in conferences, whether you provide these kind of consultancies, write a book, do a podcast like this. So it's this kind of, I think, engagement with society that makes the university, important and worthwhile.
Thank you, Dr. Elbanhawy, for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing the continued impact of your work.
This was Shivram Sundar and Susana El Souki from UCF's Office of Global Perspectives. Make sure to stay up to date with all our events and initiatives by visiting our website, ucfglobalperspectives.org. That's all for this episode, and see you next time.